Alright everyone, an emergency situation has happened and we won't be working on the E38 today, but we will be working on the wife's Neon. I drove it to work last night because I didn't want to get my beast wet, and holy crap does this suspension clunk. So, I've already got the wheel off, and I already got the tools set up because we're doing end links. We do have control arms, but I don't think I'll have enough time to do that today. And these might not be that bad, but while in here, I've diagnosed a bad CV axle. Our boot is torn. Contaminants have gotten in, so that'll need to be replaced. Don't have that part. And these struts, I believe, are shot because this thing clunks just driving straight with very little bumps in the road. So we'll get to these in a second. I've already got everything pre-lubed, but in order to get the end links off, I got the wheel. We're on the driver's side. I got the wheel turned all the way to the left lock. I have some vice grips on top because this thing's bigger than a 25mm wrench. And then we have a 15mm ratchet down here. So we're going to get to taking this off. You have to clamp and hold this with the vice grips while turning counterclockwise with this guy. And then we're going to pull that bolt out of there. And I'll get a better look at it when I pull it out of the car. But it's essentially like 4 bushings on a bolt that connects to a nut. The nut being on top, bolt head being on the bottom. So no BMW content today unless I sneak something in here, but 05 Dodge Neon. Alright, so got the nut off both sides. You got to do this side and the other side, obviously, that way you can twist the sway bar inside of its bushings there. So we're going to hammer that down and then take this thing out from the bottom, the whole bolt with the bushings. And before we do that, we're going to go ahead and get our paint stripe. So the Beamer came with a stripe that showed you how the spring aligns with the whole assembly. As I anticipated, this car does not have that. But we are reusing the spring and everything else, all the hardware. We're just replacing the actual dampener itself. So we got our paint and our brush. And we're going to just paint a stripe from this here hole up till I can't see anymore. And then we're going to remove this. And then I can paint the rest from the top. And then that way when I transfer everything over to the new front shock, I'll be able to make sure that the spring and all the hardware lines perfectly with the new one like it's supposed to. One thing I've noticed is, I don't know what this wire is for, but this thing's cut. The wire that doesn't look like it goes to much. It could be a ground over there, I don't know. And then it goes to the strut. So I don't know what that's for. Because even if we come around in here, can't see anything, so who knows. And oddly enough, on this side, there isn't one. But I think there used to be, because as you can see, there's the remnants of a wire attached to where the strut mount. And there's, you know, I'm going to assume it went here. But there's no evidence of it, so I don't know what happened to that. I don't know what that thing is or why it's missing. So if anybody else knows, they can let me know. I might try to run another wire from here to there, but I don't know how much good it'll do because I don't know what the hell it's for, honestly. I don't know. Is it a ground? Is it something for the lights? I don't know. You tell me. If you know, let me know. But I'll cut back once we get done painting and we pop those sway bar end links out. Alright, so got that guy off. These things were not cooperating with me, the spacer and the dealios. It was getting kind of a pain in the ass, so we enlisted the help of ye old torch. And was able to burn those guys until I was able to pound it off with the hammer and the pry tool and my trusty vice grip. So we managed to get that crusty dude out of there. So if it's giving you the business, torch it. I don't think that fire's out yet, but that's okay. eventually that it will evaporate and will no longer become a problem. So, okay, that's out. Do the same thing on the other side, I guess. Bring over yield torch. Once we get that taken care of, we'll go take this guy out. Alright, and for the strut tower nuts and bolts here, we got 21mm nut, 21mm bolt. So just get your trusty wrench up in here, set your impact to loosen, and boom, done. Easy enough. Now we're going to pry this thing out of here. We'll go up top, get those 3, which are 13mm, and we'll be able to drop this thing out and start the spring compression process and the transplanting. Alright, so we got the old guy out. There she blows. It's going to be the new one to replace it. So we just need to transplant spring and all the hardware from there onto this guy. And then we should be golden. I'll let you know what size nut and things these are. I don't think I'm going to film the spring compression because that's going to be long and boring. But more or less, you get 2 clamps, and you do top 3 on one side and the bottom 3 on the other side with your spring compressor. So 180 degrees of each other. Top 3 that you can reach, bottom 3 on the other side. You do that and you'll have enough clamping force to get this guy off, which is going to be however big he is. I'll figure that out in a little bit. And then we're going to continue with our little paint stripe, which appears to be this bottom hole is going to be lining up all the way up to this guy. So be back in a minute. Well, a couple seconds for you, many minutes for me. Alright, quick update. This is what we got going on so far. New ones kind of assembled. I had to have the wife make a Harbor Freight tool run because this is a 19 and then 19 nut right in there. And this top guy's a 10, and I need like a big flange wrench to fit in there because I don't have any in that size, and the actual strut tower nut that I have for the BMW is a 22mm. Won't fit this guy because this went from a 21 to a 19. I don't have that tool anyway. So rather than vice grip my new rod, I sent her on a tool run. So in the meantime, I managed to pull the passenger side strut off. Gone. There it is over there to the left. It's the old one. Once I reassemble that one, I can compress that spring, get it off, and we'll be more or less road ready. And an interesting tidbit is, if you'll recall, when I pulled the sway bar end links, one thing that happened, or how it was assembled, was the nut was on the top. It was like a nut washer combo type thing. Well, not a legitimate nut, and then the bolt head was on the bottom. Now, that's how I was going to assemble it on this side. However, something concerning is, this bolt does not appear to be that long, but if you start threading it, the bolt head on the bottom and the nut on the top, it comes out and makes contact with the CV axle here. So, that's a bad time. So, what you want to do is put your bolt head on top, put the nut on the bottom, and the new ones are 14mm. Your mileage may vary, but that's my recommendation here, is put your bolt head on top or you're going to have a bad time there. And then of course your combination is bolt, bushing. You can't really see so well on the underside, but you'll have your spacer, or you're going to have your bushing, then the washer, and then that's going to back up into the spacer, and then from here you'll get your other washer, bushing, washer, nut. So it goes on the same way. It came off in that order. Bolt head, washer, bushing. Then immediately on the other side of this you've got the other part of the bushing, or another bushing. Then you'll have the washer, the spacer, and then what you can see is you'll have the other washer, bushing, your sway bar, bushing, washer. So that's how she blows. So once old girl comes back with my wrench set, my 19 and or 21, because it was 21 to take off at 19 to put back on, I'll be able to get this done. She'll have a new front suspension, and then we won't be knocking around when we're driving. And then next weekend, if it doesn't rain, she cleans that trunk out. I can do the rear struts and maybe the radiator. Radiator I JB welded a while back, because after she blew her head gasket, which I didn't really film any of that. I think the only input I did on that was how you can move this thing in the proper position to make it easy to put stuff back on. Should have filmed that, but I didn't. I didn't think neon stuff was interesting. Yeah, maybe it is, but in any case, from blowing her head gasket, the radiator got hot and cracked. I JB welded. It held for many months, but now we have a little bit of seepage when it starts getting hot. You can see this top part is kind of moist, so water is obviously leaking from here and landing. It's a slow leak. I figured the suspension is more of an emergency, so that's getting done now. And once she gets back, we can button this up. So I shall return. All right, we got the sway bar end links torqued in. She still hasn't returned from the Harbor Freight run, but that's it, fully tightened. And as you can see on the bottom, that comes through a considerable distance. That's like an inch. So imagine that coming through on this side an inch, like it did when I originally fastened this, and look how close it is to the CV axle. So not worth the risk. I'm not saying it will hit it and interfere, but I don't think my concern is unfounded. So bolt head on top. When she gets back, we can finish the rest of this. Alright, and we're all done here. Not much to it. Held this on with a 21, and I used the impact on a 22, because the 21, it's actually, must be a metric system, like 3/4 of an inch or something. Whatever the difference is between 21 mil and 22, because the 21 is not quite big enough. 22 is a wee bit too big, but I did use the 22 impact, torqued that on, held that with a 21, and boom, done. This is the final result here. Remember, 13 millimeters on top, and then Harbor Freight run was successful, as we have our 19 super deep dude, and then this top guy was a 10. So you just put that down there on the nut, rotate this one. You'll be in a loosening type motion, so you'll loosen it with your 10 millimeter socket. And then once that bottoms out, you're good to go. You just put it right back in. Boom, done. So we'll take this thing out for a test drive, and we'll make sure we don't have any more obnoxious clunking anymore. And if you want an idea what this is, the Max Zorber 235627 is the part number on this thing. So alright, I know this wasn't normally any of my cars, but this had to be done. Her car was clunking. I was like, I'm not getting in this death trap ever again unless this is fixed. So hopefully this wasn't too boring. Hopefully it helps. And you know, we'll do a little more neon videos, since we only have a few more minor repairs to do this, like the rear suspension. So thanks for watching, guys. Peace.